Hey everybody, this is Nate Soltvedt with Riesterer Schnell, your application specialist. Today I'm joined by Alex Sellner with New Leader, our regional sales manager. Alex has been in this role for a few years now.
Yep.
And been a great asset for Riesterer Schnell. Helps us with product knowledge, start outs, customer visits, and it's been great working with you, Alex.
Thanks, Nate.
Today we have the John Deere 600R behind us. It's an NL7 20 box. We're going to be kind of quizzing Alex on what the features are of this.
You bet.
So, Alex, you want to kind of tell us what makes the NL7 different than our standard G4s that we're speccing a lot of machines?
So the biggest thing that everybody's been talking about with the NL7 is the width. This now will throw our core products up to 120 foot wide, which is a big deal to a lot of our large growers and fertilizer dealerships out there. They wanted to get much wider. They wanted to go much faster. So we increased the width. We also increased the throughput so guys can keep carrying high rates at those high speeds. We also threw section control on this to help everybody get into those pie-shaped corners and odd-shaped fields, that kind of thing.
So, yeah. Awesome. What are the high point parts of this box that makes it different than the G4? You know, how can you just go from 90, maybe 80, 90, 100 foot spreading to up to 120? How are they achieving that?
So we completely redesigned these spinners. You can now see it's a stack spinner. So the top one is throwing our inner pattern. The bottom one is throwing our outer pattern. We're keeping everything much more straight and not near as lofted. We do run a spinner speed of 900 RPM, but we don't see any crush because of the actuators, and the delivery points to the spinners is much smoother. Mm-hmm. So a complete redesign to get to those huge widths that everybody wants.
Yeah. As far as the belt, how has that changed as well? We can see the kind of like twin belt and stuff.
Yep. So we went to a twin belt system. We have left and right, and then we also have a front and back. So on this setup, there is 4 belts. They are 100% rubber design now. They're not the belt over chain that we're used to. Everyone's fear with a straight rubber belt is belt slippage. So we put a positive drive cog on there. So think much more of like a skid loader track or a quad tracks track or something like that. So now we don't get that slip. We don't have to track belts left and right because there's two rows of those teeth in there. So there's no more tracking. There's no slip. It's a much smoother, more efficient way to get fertilizer to the spinner.
Awesome. Yeah. And so now if we're going to a fixed gate height,
Yep.
Versus that variable that we could change on the G4s and G5s, what's our like maximum throughput on a machine like this?
So this bed is set up with 3.7 inches, and it's going to be 8 height for all 4 feed gates on that. We did that to increase the throughput. So great example is we can do 600 pounds at 64 pound density, 22 mile an hour through this machine.
At 120 foot, right?
At 120 foot. So yeah, coming out the back of this machine is right at 3,200 pounds a minute at that speed.
Wow. So, yeah, and we've had conversation with growers on can it really throw 120 foot, and is that always the case, or is there times where we got to make sure we're spreading the right distance? What's your experience?
Yep. So a huge amount of our core products, a lot of our urea, AMS, potash, MAP, DAFs, MES-Sense, a lot of those will go that 120. The huge one that everybody talks about is elemental sulfur. That one we can only get to 80 for. That's just the way that stuff flies. That's all the farther we can get it. But if you get into some lesser quality fertilizer, a lot more fines and stuff, it's very easy to narrow this up to say 110 foot, 90 foot, something like that, to make sure everything is overlapping the correct way and we're not streaking fields.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what customer do you think would have a huge benefit from this?
Yeah. A lot of fertilizer dealers are looking at this just for improved efficiencies of less tracks in the fields. They can follow sprayer tracks at 120 foot. We see a fair amount of these going into potato fields because of the throughput and the width and the speeds that they can carry. They're not having to modify machines to gain to that 120 like they were with the G4s and such. So
yeah, and I think too with the potatoes, right? Like a lot of times the guys are outlining the fields or on the edges. Yeah. So with section control, we're not spreading the road or that fence line we just spread on the field and the crop.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and that was a big thing. If we wanted to make sure we kept fertilizer inside the field, everyone nowadays is talking about runoff, stuff like that. So the section control keeps everything applied where it needs to be.
yeah. So with section control on the G5s, I've seen situations where we got a lot more moving parts and stuff happening.
Yep.
Can you give us an overview of how this is different than the G5?
Yep. So the G5 had the whole entire fan frame moved left, right, forward, and backwards. You can see this is now solid. So the way we achieve that is we're just changing the drop points of where we're dropping the fertilizer on the spinners. And all that is achieved by these chutes up here that are ran by electric actuators.
Awesome.
So all we're doing is just changing the drop point, and that affects our width, affects our section control, everything like that. It also affects according to rate and speeds. We're constantly moving. If you could put a camera back here, those things are constantly moving to make sure our pattern is as flat as possible as we're running through the theater.
Awesome. So, yeah. And the belts, like you said, it's not belt over chain, right? So, is this going to be a machine a guy wants to use for spreading lime or gypsum?
Nope. So this machine is only for fertilizer. Pellets-wise fertilizer, we can do pellet lime, but anything pelletized we can do. Ag lime, gypsum, that kind of thing is it's out of the boat. We knew we wanted to stay strictly fertilizer only with the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if that's your growers using that, we need to probably be looking at a G4, G5.
Yeah. There's still always going to be that market that needs a G4 for ag lime or gypsum, or compost or whatever.
Yeah.
This is mainly for fertilizer.
Awesome. Yeah, in my opinion, I see this being as pivotal on the dry side as exact supply on the sprayer side. In my opinion, with section control and the spread width, being able to match the sprayers is going to be phenomenal.
Yes. Yep.
So, yeah. Is there any other cool things you want to point out on this box that we haven't touched on?
Yep. So the one thing that we knew we wanted to do too, we made everything out of stainless steel on this. So that includes the bearings. So there's no grease points on this. And we took away the belt over chain, so there's no more oiling that chain daily. So now at the end of the day, besides keeping this thing clean and opening up waterfalls, making sure there's no blockages, it's almost a maintenance-free bed. So we tried to take a lot of the pinch points away from guys that they complained about, and maintenance are one of those.
Yeah. So I think you hit the main one that we're kind of encouraging our guys, make sure you're checking the waterfalls, the chutes, because when we start to get build up, we're going to have product not diverting properly. So, in order to maintain that good spread pattern that we tested.
Yeah. And all that stuff back there is completely toolless. So while they're waiting on waiting for a tender to get there, or at the end of the night while they're fueling up, like something they can do is just pull this inspection ladder out, crawl up there, no matter 1 or 2 minutes, you got all those wing nuts off, and you're going to have everything inspected and then put back together. So, yeah, it's fairly simple. It really is.
Awesome. And this all runs through our John Deere Gen 5 displays. So anyone that's used to running the spreaders before, it's very similar look. It's got isobus on it, but New Leader did a phenomenal job of making sure that it was well laid out, easy to use.
Integrated.
Yeah, I would say there's like 5 buttons that you're going to use on primarily one page.
Yep.
To switch width or switch products and rates and densities. So,
Yep.
You guys did a nice job with that.
Yep. We tried to make sure everything that the consumer needed in a day-to-day basis was within five button pushes.
Yeah.
So we tried to get rid of the clunkiness of all the ISOs that we've came out before, and we tried to streamline it as much as possible.
Yeah. As I said too, with the integration, we're going to be able to use our boundaries. So anyone using satellite or radio-based RTK boundaries, we're able to put that in and make sure this machine's shutting off based on boundaries as well. So putting that fertilizer exactly where you need it to the next step.
Yep.
So awesome. I think that's everything I had for questions. Appreciate you coming out and going through this with us. To you viewers, if you have any additional questions, please reach out to one of your local Riesterer Schnell locations. We'd love to talk to you about it. Thank you.
We're your John Deere dealer coming through for you, Riesterer and Schnell.